Okay. So this video is about a video that I saw from Till Science, and that you're talking about mirror cells and a research and on chirality on it in relationship with chirality. Okay, but mirror cells, I'll put the link to that video in the description. The thing is, mirror cells are um, cells that function opposite to how normal cells function. They're a mirror reflection of it. Only normal cells function a certain way, mirror cells function the opposite way. Mirror molecules are said to have been created, but um, and they are said to be quite harmless. Now, I did write a blog about this, quite a lengthy one, and before I could save it, yeah, the whole thing just went, yeah. And I don't know if it's a security thing with my computer, but um, I started writing it. Then I thought I might as well make a video of it. Now I don't know if this is going. What's the matter with this one? But um, I'm just going to say my opinion about that. The thing is, there is reference to um, the idea of alchemy, the idea of mercury. So there is this poem that says, "The order of nature is reversed in me." And this is in reference to mercury as one of the alchemical elements. Um, there is also this idea of Lalita Sahasranama. Yeah, these are Vedic texts. These are also verses, reference to goddesses. But when you look closely to them, they may also seem referring to the order of nature's reversed in me. Mirror cells are said to be cells that would um, potentially help cure diseases, um, help resolve antibiotic resistance, and unlock the secrets of life itself. But having said that, nature already has, okay, and there's this idea that mirror cells have a superpower and that body apparently cannot break them down. Yeah, and hence would be effective for drugs that needs to last. For example, for chemotherapy or certain antibiotics. But that seems nice. Those so far so good. But there are certain things which are not quite traceable, sensible, or being able to be sensed as much. For example, um, it's said that mirror molecules have been created, but that they are found to be quite harmless. I have been paying attention to signs of life. I've been noticing life from a health perspective, but in a way, so you'd say that there's nothing new about it. A lot of people appreciating life and studying several aspects of life. What's there about it? The thing is, I'm studying the human body and the effect on the human morphic resonance field, so to speak. The 2 years of the pandemic made me think about how microbes have an effect on the body. For example, the bubonic plague may have created a certain rat race kind of thought lines in human ways of thinking. And now we have had the pandemic, COVID-19. And I was thinking, we don't want to become other than humans. Having microbial behavior is not, I mean, that changes how we behave, how we respond. And um, I started practicing more further on the clinical health facilitation that I've been doing. So I worked on myself. So I essentially was healing myself so that I don't become a viral composition and maintain more being me, maintain being human. And there are several Vedic textbooks, for example, that are talking about how to maintain being human, but not from a person-centric model of the universe. In the sense, there are several chantings, there are, say, sculptures made, temples, mythological references, and several ways of thinking, which is to maintain being human to maintain health and composition. But there are also effects which is not already seen. For example, how does technology affect our human composition? Then I discovered there is this reference to the Great Unconformity, where several civilizations, several layers of Earth's crust was eroded. This may seem I'm jumping from one topic to another, but I'm also speaking from influences on the human body which haven't been traced. For example, the effects of the COVID-19 on the human composition, causing, for example, brain fog, yeah, or other influences that then changes, for example, our lines of thought. So you would say, I'm under the influence right now. Okay. I have been trying to make a podcast on the matter, but I'm just also speaking here. How is this related with mirror cells? Now, I don't know with or without popular permission if there have been research on mirror cells, or nevertheless, there is this idea of mirror molecules being regarded as quite harmless. But our human secrets of life have not been decoded, is one of the things that mirror cells are said to help potentially decode, which can also be found on Google if you just look up on what mirror cells are talking about. And they are hypothetical. That idea is hypothetical. There is this idea of prions having an, I'll leave a link about prions also in the description. And just like how the COVID-19 virus may have been a response to something that is already underlying, for example, the wet markets, or it's also been said to have been because of research which went a little off ethics, that nature then responded violently. And then there was a pandemic. So there's this thought. So if the idea of prions or these kinds of creations, molecules, are a response to what's known or unknown in different studies that's happening. And if you kind of see them as signs, symptoms, but if you also see, might as well have written it, but the blog got taken off, so I'm going to have to speak it. Since a few days, I have been noticing what I've been calling as Rashmi effect, or the light with which you see things. And it's a reflection of what, when you pass light through a prism, it shows up in several colors, rainbow colors, for example. And there's this idea of Heisenberg uncertainty principle, where, through the slit lamp, a double slit lamp experiment, where when you're looking at a photon, it behaves a certain way, and when you're not, then it behaves a certain way. The light with which you see things, the perspective from which you see things, changes what you see. You could wear red tinted glasses and the world seems a certain way. When you wear, so similarly, when we say Rashmi, or just say, I've been calling it as Rashmi, but since the pandemic, I have been noticing certain archetypes, certain behavioral patterns. And I've tended to call this Rashmi as artificial intelligence. Yeah, I've been you could call it internal associations. You kind of tend to roadmap or kind of place hold I'm noticing certain symptoms, and then you see why this is there. It's more like a jigsaw puzzle. You have lots of pieces, and then you pay attention to certain pieces, and then you wonder why is this there in relationship to other things. And you notice certain behavior patterns, and then you notice this is there. And over time, I came to recognize certain symptoms that I then associated with the COVID-19, for example. I was tending to associate, internally, I've been calling it as Rashmi, yeah. And then I've been calling it as artificial intelligence because that also kind of idea kind of imposed on that. And then I was noticing I was calling it as COVID-1, yeah. Like there were many waves of it. So I've been tending to recognize it as it's kind of like an archetype. When I notice it, then I know, okay, there are certain symptoms showing up. And then I kind of work with it so it's not having an inflammatory effect. And then there's more a normalcy. So it's kind of internal associations. So I've recognized kind of three such COVID-1, COVID-2, COVID-3 kind. Yeah. So I kind of watch for when they are showing up then. So we are having a normal, we haven't had lockdown since then. There are, so I kind of check. I'm a health facilitator, so I notice it in science. Now I've been noticing this Rashmi effects on some time. Yeah. I call it that because, okay, I have a lot of, I call it as mm, namunas in my life. Yeah, I've been a QA for quite some time, at least 13 plus years. And I I call it as about 5% sampling. You notice something and then it's reflecting so many. So several aspects in my life, several people, I've been noticing it's a kind of a classic story where people who show up in my life are an example of who they are out there. And so I have these different characters in my life, and I call each of them as a, representation of a whole. So I have a house of representations to kind of reflect on what's out there. So it could be particle physics, it could be um, different fields of work, market, types of market, varieties. And then to understand life and where disease come from or where certain health shows up, or how do you recognize normal, how do you recognize balance, and when do you recognize when there is imbalance. So certain field markers, so to speak. So Rashmi is one name, yeah. And so there are, just to say, I am also one of the namunas, yeah. I also represent a part of a whole. So I also tend to see my kind of manifestations showing up out of my kind of behavior, or so nobody's spared. Yeah, everybody's in a Muna. I kind of, it helps me keep a track of what's changing, what's there, what's not there. I have a person-centric model of the universe. Yeah. So, and then I'm working on conscience and consciousness, and I discovered there are, consciousness, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, supraconscious, and then there is further from there what I'm calling as conscience. How is all of this related with mirror neurons, mirror cells? So there is mirror neurons too, but they are a reflection from a human biology perspective. But mirror cells are said to be the opposite of it, in reference to Lalita Sahasranama, where if you read of it carefully, it's talking about um, a, a sort of reverse nature. But this is kind of bouncing off of the idea of alchemy, but it's also in a way that in Levin's life goes beyond challenges. You could say, okay, so mirror cells are also said to potentially cure diseases, go beyond antibiotic resistance, and unlock the secrets of life itself. So this is what they're trying to create in a lab setting and to be able to study it. The thing is, um, artificial intelligence, we already have several facets of artificial intelligence, and we also have hallucinations from there and the effects on not just human biology over several years. For example, how humans may not be relying on their own intelligence and are kind of more tending to use artificial intelligence because it works. I don't think so. We are looking at artificial intelligence as a solution to go beyond natural stupidity, or is natural stupidity in some way because there is artificial intelligence? Or, for example, like a calculator, you depend more on calculator. You're not calculating what you can by yourself. And then over time, now we have computers. So you say their technology is making us stupid. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, you could say to an extent there is this aspect of just enough. What is just enough? When we go beyond a certain amount of um, just enough, it goes to landfills, there being diseases, or there being satellite in outer space, which needs cleaning. There's this idea of the movie WALL-E, where according to that movie, Earth was so uninhabitable that they had to live in bubbles because sufficient cleaning, or more than what was needed, or we didn't know just enough. That's what the movie was talking about. So I have been working from, you know, we already need to work on it. We already have the movie WALL-E and several such movies talking about, take care. So this mirror cell, this video on mirror cells got me, yeah, put your foot down. Now you kind of got to speak. Um, Also because I've been paying attention to signs of life and what changes in the signs of life that then shows up as disease. I've been putting up these kind of content on my podcast, but I can't open my podcast. The creator portal is not opening. And so I'm having to make this YouTube. And it's about who's going to read it, I don't know, but who's going to watch this. Um, Nevertheless, I have to try. Okay. So I'm kind of jumping between this and that. This is also the case when I was kind of beginning to talk about different waves of the pandemic. I also spoke about the monkeypox because I was noticing certain signs. You could say I'm in my own head, but I noticed those symptoms were not showing up. Maybe somebody paid attention to it, or something was worked with, and we didn't have those diseases, or it didn't get to too much of a problem. So I'm noticing is Rashmi signs, but it's more in terms of light reflections, how things are reflected upon, and how um, it's more in terms of the light from which you see things, perspective, and how that may not be as um, is necessary. Now, I've been associating Rashmi with artificial intelligence, and you kind of derive in a certain way, and you work through things. Now, I don't know if this is reflecting mirror molecules, which are said to be harmless. Why am I saying mirror molecules in reference to this? Is because when I started my work, um, and I kind of hit ground nothing, and I was kind of re-looking at life, re-looking at relationships and how things are related. What role am I playing in the whole scheme of things? One of the things I recognized is um, particle pelting at CERN has an effect on the fabric of time-space. And I've been kind of noticing things from nothing, like ground nothing. And I've been saying nothing is at the heart of everything. So like when we look at it as, reconstructing the whole scheme of things, and I've been saying our construct of reality is a little higgledy-piggledy. Yeah, we kind of put up pieces together in a way that is not really how things are. And then we've been looking at signs of life, and we're all on the same planet Earth, and people are looking for, is there life anywhere else? Are we really alone? So why is that? And then there's this idea of Sanatana Dharma, then this idea of Big Bang, and then over time, Earth formed in the whole scheme of things as fabric of time space began to start healing. So those are the thought lines that I arrived at over time. Yeah. From hitting ground, I think, kind of reconstructing the whole scheme of things. Yeah. And I was thinking particle pelting at CERN is having an effect on the fabric of time space. Now I was thinking, why is it so? And then I recognized Earth has been having, say, for example, meteorites. Yeah. And then I discovered the five big mass extinction events. And that's a bit like particle pelting. Yeah. And there have been course corrections since then. With every mass extinction event, there's also been the idea of Noah's Ark, Manvantara, which means something didn't work, culture washed out, start all over again, like a microbiology lab. Yeah, something is not working, wash the whole thing, start all over again because you need a better culture. There's the idea of the mirror cells. I don't know if research is happening somewhere that may or may not be known to popular people, a lot of people. I don't know. But there are reflections on life. There are reflections on the fabric of time space. I'm speaking a little incoherently. Such incoherence is something that I noticed was indicating to me something was off, which then had me think about, again, the pandemic, waves of it. Yeah, I've also been talking in terms of the human immunodeficiency virus. I've spoken about it on social media. Something's off. And then I have this um, um, life tends to give me signs. Um, for example, I heard about octopuses being more becoming intelligenter. Yeah. And there was this indication that life has been attempting to find ways to resolve challenges because life on Earth is a for-profit enterprise. Yeah. Because has formed over several cycles of evolution since the Big Bang, and then human beings formed over time. And there is a challenge that needs to be resolved. And I have been doing my work, yeah, and I have been facilitating original human intelligence. I have been healing the fabric of time space, which I discovered human beings our bodies are designed for. And over 2 years of the pandemic, I was not having much of an income because I was more in research. Also, I was not sitting in front of the computer as much. Because when I would come in front of a computer, there would be particle pelting. For example, there's radiation. Yeah, the screen, light, and its effect on the human body, which is why people have been saying reduce screen time. Yeah, because there is an effect. It's not just about the information that you're consuming through the social media, but it's about the screen effect itself. They would say blue light, but there is something more. There's a light effect on the body, but there's also it's from glass. I don't want to deviate here, but I'm trying to bring something to attention here. I was not spending as much time on screen, and I was offline, kind of healing the fabric of time space, which is basically from my body. And then I was noticing these different signs of life, COVID-1, COVID-2, COVID-3, and then practicing my biodynamic method. So now I call it as movementless yoga, to be able to turn around disease effects on the body, to maintain being human, to maintain being me. Yeah. And over time, now I have what I'm calling as mighty conscience. I made a video about that too. Yeah, but work is happening. And I'm from the health perspective, from so much of a difference in how health is looked at. And I got this sign about mirror cells. I also got to know about octopuses and that I need to speak my work because things may be a little off. We don't know how to appreciate signs of life. So I'm to talk about what I'm noticing. So I began speaking. This is more like, in Aikido, there's a uke and nage, and the uke is like, I'm going to punch you. And the nage has to restore the balance such that balance is not going off. Yeah. So, so there is this idea about the mirror cells and the octopuses and getting quite often about those signs. So I thought I might as well speak. I tried writing a blog, but the blog got, yeah. And so I got a little concerned. Do I write it again? And it's again going to be thick. So How do I let people know? Then our thoughts on mirror cells is from not knowing how life works. People are talking about decoding the secrets of life. And I have been functioning from those thought lines in some time. So I'm there's this idea, there's this movie, Silent Flute. And in that movie, towards the end, they're talking about a mirror. Yeah. The person looking at a mirror. Um, I'm like the mirror. Yeah. So we have this idea of the mirror neurons. And I've been working on consciousness. So when I'm working with people, I work on table therapy through biodynamic method of healthcare. People's particles, vehicles, human composition, pelts against my composition. And then I need to maintain my composition well enough such that I'm continuing to maintain being a therapist and being able to facilitate health. If I'm going to be particle pelted and go, ooh, 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 that wouldn't work. That had me get into autoimmune conditions quite so often because that's the kind of this way that's there in people's ideas of why health challenges also show up is because the yin and yang, for example, yeah, so to speak, complementary opposites, their idea of masculine, feminine, what is order, not order. And then I discovered there are Ashtanga yoga. And then I discovered there are 8 kinds of math, which kind of plays up. The Sri Chakra is talking about 8. There's an 8 triangle circle. There are 8 kinds of math. Yeah. Egyptians, they also have an 8. My pronunciation is not so good, but I'm going to read it out. Chaos, Gaia, Tartarus, Eros, Erebus, Hemera, Nyx, Ether. So there have been reference to these several kinds of 8. And how they're related, how they show up, how they affect our human composition, and how we maintain being alive. So there are people around planet who are humans maintaining different levels of health. And we also have yoga trying to get the ha and tha together, complementary opposites together. But they are also bouncing off Ashtanga yoga, where 8 limbs needs to be kept together. Yeah. I don't think they're looking at it as keeping it together, but they're more practiced as there are 8 limbs that you need to practice. Yeah. But they may not be thinking of it as 8 limbs needs to be kept together for integration. And then yoga is not quite, integration is not seen as a way of life. Yeah, but more like, oh, we practice all of this, yoga happens, those kinds of thought lines. So people do asanas, different poses, chant many kinds of mantras, for example, or not. That may be helping doing some breath work, pranayama, or one thing used as a means to get to another thing. So, but it may not be as sufficient because we had 2 years of the pandemic and there were respiratory concerns, and a lot of people, the practices weren't as much sufficient. And then I discovered our human body is made of at least 49 vayus, metabolic processes. So our reflections on life have not been as optimal as could be or needed to be because it was not the time then for us to think about it in those terms. There have been references to patriarchy, but then what human males have had to do, work through, endure. I mean, there's a lot of things that males bring forth, do that may not be understood, but then they have maintained life thus far. And their practices may not be as optimal as could be, but there are reasons for them. And then there is nurturing in a mother's womb that then helps us become better humans. Yeah. So Lalita Sahasranama is referring to mother as a nurture. Yeah. So when we is nurture against how nature is? Um, is nature more referenced in terms of male, or there are certain ways of doing things? We tend to do things a certain way, and then nurture needs to improve nature or work with nature such that um, we are not just dying, because we've moved from warring tribes over time to now we have the United Nations talking in terms of peace. So, how we care then improves how we have been living or how long we live, how we do things. So, nurture may be nurturing nature in such a way that people have been more alive in some time. So, our reflections then bring forth things that we haven't had reason to think about earlier. For example, Mighty Suite of Solutions, yeah, which has come about since when I started clinical work, clinical health facilitation, 2013. And over time, then we've had the pandemic. So life has been showing up. So from a person-centric model of the universe, I see life as, the COVID pandemic as a sign. There is something that I'm doing, which because I have a certain self-esteem, I have all of these I have these thoughts, people, I have these thoughts. Does anybody else have this thought? Yeah, kind of. Then I've been practicing movementless yoga in being able to recover from autoimmune conditions because I facilitate health. So there are many kinds of effects. The thing is, like an instrument, you got to maintain the instrument well enough, yeah, so that it's functioning well enough. And autoimmune conditions, for example, or any other effects on my health, has been a reflection on why does this happen, and what can I do so that my health is maintained well enough, so I don't get affected by this. And then as I'm facilitating health, when I see these dynamics, to recognize this is a sign from here, this is where it's coming from, what causes it. One of the things I discovered is that disease is when body parts, different aspects, kind of forget to function normally. And once they remember how to function normally, we won't have diseases. So that's how I've been restoring my health. Yeah. So it's not just a set of codes that's there in your body that you then, it's biodynamic. Now, what is health is also a certain waltz, a certain dance with life. And then how you maintain, restore order. It's like Aikido, Okinage, but not necessarily enemy. In a waltz, your partner is not your enemy, but one leads, another follow. Um, but it's a dance, yeah. Mirror cells, when you call them as opposite of normal cells, and when they are touted to be solutions, cures for diseases, or to go beyond antibiotic resistance, or to unlock the secrets of life. That may be because we are not paying attention to what already there is. Life is already showing up. We may not be looking at signs of life. If you consider antibiotic responses as immunity concerns, me versus you, yeah? Or antibiotics as in, if you're only going to look at it chemically, this happens, and then, lock and key, like, and when this, so there is chemical effects, and then how then do you look at things objectively, and that we may be kind of limiting our observations with microscopes, telescopes, and less relying on our own natural sense and sensibilities, which we tend to think is stupid or not reliable enough, or is, for example, affected by something in the environment, cosmic, miasmic, dramatic, telluric, to the point that we don't rely on our own sense and sensibilities. Why? While there are studies, I don't know if there are studies. It's more like, oh, there is these human things. Yeah, artificial intelligence sustains. Over time, it's going to be so intelligent that it's going to take over human intelligence. which in itself is talking about, it's like a prion, yeah, where there's a certain rewriting. It may be like you're going to consider microbes to be like a certain technology. COVID, for example, or the bubonic plague um, caused a little rewriting of human composition, such that there were rat races. Yeah. And then I happened to come during a little before my work started, before the pandemic. And then I noticed there is this pattern. There used to be this bubonic plague thing, rat race, human race kind of things. So when we reflect upon, then we see certain patterns. So right now I'm speaking incoherently, apparently. Yeah, jumping from one topic to another. But I'm also speaking to bring to attention that we need to talk. There are certain signs of life. There are certain signs of health. And we don't need to create mirror cells to be able to understand the biology of health, to decode secrets of life. If you think that is necessary, without already looking at technology already available, for example, there are textbooks which we may be reading suboptimally quite so much. So I said I will start writing, speaking small little verses, but then I don't want to sound like everybody else, but I don't know if what I'm saying will not be like everybody else, and hence you'll be listening differently. But nevertheless, I will try. How you're reading textbooks is not how we need to be. Yeah. How our language is being interpreted has a lot of perspective difference. And so we don't already decode the secrets of life because we're not reading what we already have. So it's not just about reading. They've been saying it as, in terms of religious people have three ways by which to appreciate matter. One is through textbooks, one is through spoken teachings, and one is through prophets or people who have taught. Yeah. So quite so many religions kind of in one way or the other bounce off of these three. Yeah. Some people hold on to one or the other aspects of it more. So Guru Granth Sahib, for example, may be talking about a book. Yeah. But there are other facets too. There are also practices. But they're the Muslim community may also be saying, oh, the book is, the Quran is the ultimate, words. So holding on to something tangible, books are something tangible, holding on to, while words are also there, but they are not tangible. And so they're holding on to something for dear life. While there are also words, and then there are people, and people are said to be dying. Yeah, they don't have so much long life. So you hold on to books that is there. Yeah. So, and there are people who have spoken. What they spoke about is again in text or written content, or there are thoughts, but then you're also again, where are these thoughts there? Bounced off of something written text somewhere. Our reflections on the matter. Do we reflect on what we study and then put things together? Is there a point of reference, a frame of reference from where our personal understanding is then reflected upon? So we know, I call it as an information management system. We learn something in school, we may be writing in our textbooks, we may not be having our primary school textbooks, like right now. You would say it's part of how we do things. But then they've also spoken integration, we've also spoken about the Pythagoras theorems, different languages. Do we use them now? Unless we're not using them, we don't know that we have learned them. Or why are they relevant now? And then you say they teach things in school which is not relevant now. That's because we haven't, somebody had an information management system to see how they are still relevant. How, when you're cooking and you're thinking about Newton's laws, that helps you think about cooking differently because then that becomes applied science. Yeah. And you may not have to exert so much of effort to get a certain outcome because they're more informed and more thought about. They are more reflected. What you've studied, you've more reflected upon better. And then you do things better, more intelligently, more wisely, and not go into hallucinations. Or need to create mirror cells. Yeah, which may be behaving differently, opposite to how nature has. Life on Earth has taken billions of years to evolve. So I will leave this thought here for whosoever can see this video, watch this, would consider what I'm saying. I will post further as I reflect on the matter further, but I'll be making more course on my online platform because that's something that I'm required to do. Also facilitate health clinically, and so that I maintain the intelligence of humans. So nature doesn't have to work on octopus or other beings, because here there's a human speaking for humans and what is possible from having a body that's human and living life in the multiverse, because our body design is such that we can do that. Because one of the sentences I came across is, the universe is made in the image of a man. Yeah. And we say mankind. So it's a human structure. And then I discovered a human body is a fine combination of like heart, two halves of one whole. So there's a masculine and feminine. So if I have a female body, I have a masculine partner, complementary partner. And so people are born with the bodies we have, and over time, when we are doing the right things, the complementary partner come together. Yeah, and the heart is whole. And then there's this idea of the Queen of Hearts, who kind of lost it. Yeah, in Alice in Wonderland, because there are wounds, traumas, right from childhood, and many things, and how we look at life, and in our own wonderland, and our own constructs of reality, hallucinations, and then how to bring things together such that reality, while we live, is all conducive and harmonious. Yeah, such that life and living in the multiverse, because that's a good culture. And God Almighty would like to have more such creations. And I'm to create more me, my kind of people, which is why I'm making the online course. Yeah. So because my kind of a person didn't just form overnight. Also, 2 years of the pandemic and my thought lines, and I'm continuing, and I'm talking about mirror cells, and so my kind of person hasn't formed earlier, hasn't been able to. So I'm to help create more my kind of people. Yeah. So do join my conversation, and then we will all become healthier, wealthier, wiser. Original humane intelligence facilitation. Thank you so much for your kind interest.